Exposed: how one amazing single mom surprised a millionaire CEO after rejecting 8 models. Jenna sat at her worn kitchen table, her fingers grazing the edge of her youngest son's art contest entry. Its vibrant colors danced under the flickering overhead light, and beneath the surface, her heart thudded with a mix of pride and trepidation. With every brushstroke, Millie, her son, captured a world that felt unattainable, the one she fought daily to provide. She had just learned that the contest winner's artwork would be showcased at a high-profile charity fundraiser orchestrated by Daniel Carter, a millionaire tech mogul whose very name echoed opulence. All the town had been buzzing about how much attention the fundraiser would receive, but as she envisioned the evening, knots twisted in her stomach. The dress code had been made clear: glam, sophistication, and unmistakable success. Jenna's bright red thrift store dress would be a stark contrast to the sparkling gowns worn by models set to attend. She felt an unease creep around her, the stark reminder of judgments that would gaze past her unpolished exterior. What if they see me as just another single mom? She thought, the doubt creeping into her mind like an unwanted guest. Pushing away the dread, Jenna focused on her boys, the twins racing through the tiny living room, competing for who could bounce a ball higher. "You've got talent, boys. Just be yourselves tonight," she called out, her voice strained with the weight of responsibility. They giggled, unaware of the turmoil stirring in her heart. She aligned her principles, integrity and love, against the glamour waiting to consume them that night. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the event approached, Jenna's inner battle deepened. She envisioned the well-polished guests, and felt a sinking sensation. Would they laugh at her thrift store dress? Fearing judgment, she wished she could embrace the world outside her home, one that didn't keep track of who wore what or how much anyone made. But everything in her being screamed to protect their dignity. How could she accept the accolades tied to models of privilege, diminishing the artwork that represented their hard-won success? The glittering venue dimly lit her thoughts and ignited her apprehension. When they arrived, the atmosphere crashed over her, a sea of celebration that felt foreign and intimidating. Surrounded by aspirational narratives, she confronted a familiar ache and urge to retreat, but the boys' excitement anchored her to the moment. Daniel, overseeing it all, presented a facade as charming as his tailored suit. But beneath his confident demeanor lay feelings of entrapment in societal obligations. Jenna's resolve resonated within him, awakening doubts he had avoided. She stood firm against his invitation to showcase models. The room quieted, her refusal echoed with a conviction he had both revered and questioned. Tension crackled in the air, leaving both souls standing at a precipice of becoming one that hinted at transformation or destruction. Millie's drawing represented authenticity. Could her moment of defiance reshape everything? As the evening spiraled into emotional chaos, both grappling with their individual truths, the very essence of who they were danced on the brink. Would Jenna's refusal inspire Daniel to reclaim something he had lost, or would he cling to expectations that choked his spirit? In that charged atmosphere, fear clashed with hope, pushing both closer to choices that could change everything. Jenna's heart raced as Daniel's gaze locked onto hers, a palpable silence hanging between them. In that suspended moment, external noise faded, and all she could hear were her own thoughts screaming of self-doubt and newfound courage. She wasn't just standing in the midst of lavish shadows, she was confronting her own insecurities. The opulent surroundings and twinkling chandeliers felt like a twisted stage set, each person watching the unfolding drama of a single mom standing up against a powerful force. Breathless, the weight of her choice echoed in her bones. How long had she played the role of the invisible woman, hiding behind thrift store clothes while navigating the complexities of motherhood alone? Tonight was not just an art display, it was a canvas on which she painted her very existence. Yet here she was, questioning everything. Did she dare embrace authenticity when the stakes seemed monumental? The competitive glances of glitzy guests pricked her skin. Uncertainty gripped her, but there was also something liberating in stark defiance. Could her boldness set an example for her boys, planting seeds of resilience in them? That thought ignited a spark deep within her, a flicker of possibility she had only whispered to herself before. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Daniel's voice broke through the noise once again. It was calm but held an undercurrent of concerned curiosity. To him, Jenna was a puzzle wrapped in mystery, unlike anything the intimate elite usually showcased. "Yes," she replied, the word bursting forth, carrying the weight of affirmation. "This isn't about the glitz. It's about talent and heart." The conviction in her voice grounded her, and for the first time, she felt a powerful shift, not just for herself, but for Daniel too. Their unfolding dynamic hinted at something deeper than mere confrontation. It spoke to a shared yearning for authenticity amidst manufactured perfection. As the evening advanced, Jenna stepped away from the gilded distractions. She maneuvered separated from the opulent company, seeking solace. In a quieter corner, she situated herself against a marble pillar, allowing herself a moment to breathe. Her fingers brushed against the edges of Millie's art piece in her pocket. The innocent strokes of color symbolized everything she had fought for: dreams, love, creativity untainted by expectations. In the distance, she spotted the framed artwork being admired by guests, Millie's name illuminated under the spotlight. It was then that Jenna realized this event was larger than herself. It was a celebration of potential. Pride began stitching the rips of her insecurities together, illuminating the girl within who had once desperately sought validation. Daniel approached, an introspective expression decoratively masking his uncertainty. "You know, it's not easy being where I am," he confessed, leaning against the pillar beside her. "There's pressure to fit a mold that doesn't feel like me anymore." His words echoed what Jenna had felt all evening, an understanding forged in shared vulnerability. "Maybe we both need to re-examine what success truly looks like," she said, her voice steady, just as resolution began to tether their two disparate worlds. A loud commotion drew their attention. A pair of models, oblivious to the chaos their entrance caused, were snapping photos, surrounding the exquisite art display. The sharp contrast of their beauty drew murmurs from the crowd, propelling Jenna into a whirlwind of stifled emotions. She glanced at Daniel, their eyes locking in a moment laden with shared clarity. It was now or never to challenge the very paradigm they both existed in. But as she opened her mouth to insist on a different narrative, the crowd's chorus amplified, drowning out her resolve. The moment of truth was racing toward her, begging for decision. What choice would Jenna make, faced with the roaring tide of expectations, both from within and around her? Would she stand tall and press her vision forward, or fall quiet, allowing the clamoring world to drown her aspirations? In that charged atmosphere, every heartbeat pulsed with the urgency for change. Jenna weighed her next words, the outcome shimmering uncertainly in the fragile air. Would her next move be the domino that toppled it all? Jenna's breath hitched as she registered the moment around her. The models, their laughter ringing out like chimes, were drawing in the breath of the crowd and squeezing out any air that had buoyed her up until now. It was a stark reminder of everything she had not allowed herself to be: a mere observer, content to remain in the background. Yet paradoxically, it also deepened her resolve. She visualized her boys' faces and felt a swell of protective fierceness. What legacy would she leave them if she let this moment pass, if she let doubt whisper sweet nothings in her ear? "Jenna," Daniel kept his voice soft but his eyes gleamed with urgency, "you have a unique story. Use it. Those models? They don't represent what matters." His words broke through her reverie. They pulled her focus back to Millie's painting, a piece that captured raw emotion and brutal beauty, everything Jenna had felt but suppressed for so long. What was she waiting for? It was her chance to stand against a stream of curated perfection, to challenge the aesthetic that had so often marginalized the authentic. "Let us create our own narrative," Jenna replied, the steel in her tone suddenly matched by a newfound clarity. She stepped out from the shadows of the marble pillar, allowing herself to be fully illuminated by the lights that had once felt blinding. Taking an assertive step forward, Jenna positioned herself near the artwork, gathering every ounce of courage she possessed. The crowd's attention shifted, as if sensing a shift in the atmosphere. She was here for her daughter's art and the raw truth behind it, a truth often overshadowed by superficiality. "Excuse me." Jenna's voice cut through the din, commanding attention. The clamor subsided as she continued, her heart beating louder than ever. I know this is a celebration of beauty, but beauty isn't always defined by conventional standards. It's found in moments of vulnerability, creativity, and the narratives that bring us together. Murmurs echoed through the throng, intermixed with expressions of intrigue and skepticism. Thankfulness washed over her as she felt Daniel's presence at her side, a newfound ally in this discussion. She had surprised even herself with the boldness of her words. She was tapping into something deep and powerful. I'm Jenna, a single mother and the proud champion of my daughter's journey. The bubbling pride filled her voice, carrying conviction. Millie's art isn't just a pretty piece to admire, it's a testament to real struggles and dreams. We should celebrate those who dare to defy expectations. Jenna could see a ripple of recognition in some faces. She was striking chords of familiarity among those once lost in glitz and glam. Her honesty struck at their facades, beckoning them to confront their own lost narratives. What I'm asking, she continued, is for all of us to redefine success based on authenticity rather than entitlement. A shadow of uncertainty passed through the onlookers, but the applause that followed was a mix of surprise and growing admiration. Jenna felt the warmth spread through her, buoyed by the unexpected support. She could see Millie's artwork mirrored in their eyes, raw, real, and resonant, but as the tide of affirmation lifted her, a peculiar anxiety tugged at her unconscious. Had she ignited hope or simply opened herself up to a world ready to cast judgment on the unexpected direction she had taken? Her moment of clarity grew dim as she realized the crowd had shifted toward the next display, their interest waning. Had she said too much? Or too little? Would they remember her words, or would they spirit her away, letting her fade back into the shadows from whence she came? Jenna, Daniel's voice pulled her inward again. That was powerful. But now, you need to make sure they don't forget it. His intense gaze encouraged her, but also carried an unsettling challenge. What next? She breathed, contemplating the unpredictability of her own path. Her heart raced anew as she scanned the room, realizing that whatever direction she chose now would demand all of her. Courage. Would they witness her resilience, or would their disinterest turn cold, a reminder that one moment of bravery could swiftly evaporate in the face of a deeper tempest of expectations? With determination bubbling beneath her vulnerability, Jenna felt the groundwork form beneath her feet. But in the storm of the unknown, what truly featured in the vast expanse ahead? Suddenly, among the attention-caught glances, a familiar face emerged, one she never expected to see there: Millie's distant father. The air shifted, tension flaring in the edges of her purpose. It was time for confrontation, a moment that could redefine everything she had just built. Jenna's heart dropped as she locked eyes with Millie's father, the man who had chosen distance over presence, financial support over emotional connection. His well-groomed appearance and confident stride betrayed no hint of regret. Instead, he exuded an air of entitlement that once charmed her but now only sparked a fierce resolve in her. Jenna, he called out, feigning friendliness while cloaked in an insincerity that wrapped around him like an expensive suit. The crowd began to notice, their attention shifting again, a new spectacle forming before them. The whispers reignited, thickening the air around her. Care to give us a glimpse into your little speech? He continued, a hint of condescension lacing his words. Jenna felt the intensity of her earlier speech fade momentarily, replaced by an unsettling mix of anger and vulnerability. She glanced at Daniel, who nodded subtly, urging her to take control. It was an inflection point, and she recognized the importance of standing firm. I would rather showcase the brilliance of Millie's art than provide another opportunity for a debate over what defines beauty, she replied, her voice steady. It felt strange to confront him, but there was a strength emerging from her that had been dormant for too long. Art, huh? He scoffed, stepping closer, invading her personal space. You think that captures the essence of her being? The real world doesn't care about feelings or authenticity. It rewards power and appearance. A fire ignited in her chest, forcing her to rise to the challenge he presented. The real world can be powerful, yet utterly hollow. Millie's art is more profound than your projections of success. It tells stories that need to be heard, that redefine what it means to succeed. He chuckled, and the crowd seemed torn, some leaning toward the remarkable mother fueled by fierce love, others drawn by the polished image he projected. Jenna could feel the internal conflict simmering within her, echoing in the tense, expectant silence of the observers. It struck her then how definitions of power shifted in a single exchange, how narratives unfolded and transformed. But are those stories enough? He countered, forcing her to wrestle with that question. Can mere words and pretty pictures sustain you or your daughter? The world demands more, Jenna. It must be earned. I have fought for every moment of our lives, she replied firmly, her gaze unwavering. It's not the opinions of others that define our worth, it's how we value our struggles, our authenticity. It's the dreams we dare to pursue. And I will teach Millie that she is more than an extension of someone else's legacy. The audience held its breath, caught in the dizzying tension of personal conflict. Jenna's heart raced, a wild mix of exhilaration and terror flooding her senses. She had unwittingly created a battleground, one that transcended her relationship with Millie's father and touched upon the deeper wounds of judgment and expectation. Millie's father opened his mouth to retort, but she had no intentions of allowing him to sidetrack the energy she had built. You might see power as having the upper hand, but I see strength in vulnerability. I no longer care how the world perceives me. Instead, I will craft my own narrative, a narrative where authenticity and integrity matter. At that moment, a shift occurred within the room. The applause that erupted wasn't purely for her defiance, it was a recognition that reverberated through the crowd, a collective sigh of cathartic relief at seeing someone stand their ground. Jenna felt invincible, her earlier self-doubt fading like ash in the wind, yet, within that surge of triumph, uncertainty echoed in the back of her mind. Was this just a momentary reprieve for her? What battle lay ahead now that she'd firmly held her position? She felt a primal urge to conquer whatever surprises awaited, but also understood the fragility of her new standing. As she stood tall, she realized she was now a mother fighting not just for her daughter's gift but also for her right to exist fully in a world that constantly chiseled away at her worth. But then, before she could begin to strategize her next move, she noticed Millie's father's smirk, the kind that suggested he was far from done. This wasn't just a warning, it was a challenge. A heat surged through Jenna, igniting her next steps. The confrontation had only just begun, and for every moment of clarity she had uncovered, an even greater storm loomed just on the horizon. What would she do now? This was just the beginning of a much broader conflict, one with stakes that could shake the very foundation of her journey. Jenna stood at the center, her heart still racing from the confrontation. The applause had felt like a bomb, but now it was fading. She locked her gaze on Millie's father, who continued to leer from the crowd with an unsettling confidence. Each casual glance he shot her way resembled an unspoken promise of retribution. This wasn't simply a matter of abandoning her mission. It was a direct challenge to everything she represented as a mother and an artist. The moment provided clarity. She couldn't allow him to dictate the terms of their struggle any longer. Yet, with each passing second, self-doubt coiled around her like a familiar shroud. What was she willing to stake on this newfound strength? Was she prepared to face the fallout of a man who had seldom backed down from a challenge? In a pocket of silence amidst the crowd, echoes of uncertainty clawed at her resolve. She had to redirect this energy into a strategy that could harness both her vulnerability and her growing courage. She stepped off the stage, and the moment she descended, Daniel followed closely. "You were incredible," he murmured. "The way you stood up to him, it was like watching a storm create ripples across a pond forged by your strength." Yet, his words, while sincere, did little to quell her swirling thoughts. "It's not over," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "He won't let this end here. He'll come back, and next time, he'll be prepared." Daniel nodded, his brow furrowing as he assessed her unyielding spirit. "What can we do to prepare for him? You've shifted the narrative, now it's about maintaining control." Jenna's mind activated, searching for potential avenues and allies. "I need to ensure Millie's art gains recognition, validate our passion, and build a support system. Once I fortify our foundation, then we can counter him." Each plan cross-referenced the influence of her experiences with art, and the power it could wield if correctly managed. Over the next few days, Jenna immersed herself in preparations. She began connecting with local galleries and began exploring platforms that promoted artistic expression. Each email she sent felt like pulling anchors, releasing her from the weight of her past insecurities. Millie's artwork, with its raw emotion and authenticity, became an extension of her own identity, a badge of honor she wore fiercely. At home, her workspace transformed into an atelier, a chaotic symphony of paint splatters and canvases, where creativity flowed unhindered. She spent hours painting alongside Millie, investing time not just in the art they created, but in deepening their bond. The world outside her home was still intense, but within those four walls, every brushstroke was a reminder of their shared dreams. One evening, as they settled around the dinner table, Millie presented her latest piece, a vibrant explosion of colors that captured her wild imagination. "What do you think, Mom?" she asked, her innocent eyes wide with anticipation. "Oh honey, it's beautiful. It tells a story," Jenna replied, pride swelling within her. And in that moment, she recognized the transformational power gifted through authenticity. The stakes reached beyond Millie's art. They were about building a legacy woven by courage and creativity. The thrill of these small victories stirred a fire within Jenna. Yet, just as she felt assured in her course, a chilling phone call shattered her installed confidence. The unmistakable tone of Millie's father laced through the receiver. "Let us talk, Jenna," he demanded. "I believe it's time to have a proper conversation about Millie's future." Each word radiated with his usual condescension, creating a sense of foreboding that enveloped her like dark clouds threatening rain. Was this a warning? An ultimatum? Jenna stared at the paint-streaked walls of her sanctuary. The time had come to face the man who had haunted her past. In a single breath, Jenna gathered what she needed. This would be a confrontation that wouldn't merely alter her own narrative, it had the potential to redefine everything for Millie. As she dialed back, her heart pulsing in her chest, she steeled herself for what lay ahead. The stage was set, the stakes higher than ever. Would she emerge victorious, or would Millie's father manage to cast another shadow over them both? The battle lines had been drawn. As Jenna settled into a quiet corner of her studio, the hum of her creativity seemed to dissipate into the air, replaced by the oppressive weight of anticipation. The phone call with Millie's father echoed in her mind, each syllable a reminder of the looming confrontation. She was now circling a defining moment in her life, a moment that demanded the very essence of her newly found strength. Should she meet him on neutral ground, or confront him in the fortress of her home? The walls, once a sanctuary of paint and laughter, now felt like a stage for an inevitable showdown. What had once been her creative haven was morphing into a battleground, a canvas spreading with the colors of fear and courage. She considered every angle. The calm of her days painting with Millie had been threaded with their laughter, but now that tranquility was squeezed by the thrum of dread. Deep down, she wanted to shield Millie from the raging storm, but Jenna knew the importance of facing adversity head-on. To teach her daughter resilience, she would have to embody it. With instinctive determination, Jenna began drafting her thoughts. A list of key points flitted through her mind, equally a testament to Millie's talent and a defense against the impending confrontation. By acknowledging and exposing Millie's creativity to the world, Jenna realized she could anchorage herself in something larger than herself and her immediate fears. "Millie," Jenna called softly, beckoning her daughter from the other room. As the vibrant young artist bounded into the studio, Jenna felt the urgency of the moment course through her veins. "I want to talk with you about your artwork, and how we can show it to more people." Millie's eyes lit up, a reflection of her untainted dreams and the hopeful spirit they both shared. "What about it?" she asked, tilting her head, curiosity glimmering. "Your art is powerful, honey. It expresses the world as you see it, and it deserves attention. We need to get it into bigger spaces." Jenna's heart pulsed with excitement as she spoke. This was no longer just a mother's attempt to protect. It was an initiative to amplify Millie's voice. Together, they concocted a plan, brainstorming galleries, online exhibitions, and local competitions. The more they envisioned Millie's success, the more clarity penetrated Jenna's mind, a realization that their fight against Millie's father didn't begin or end with confrontation. It lay in creating a narrative of triumph that would outshine his intimidation tactics. Yet, as the date of their confrontation loomed closer, Jenna wrestled with spirals of anxiety. What if Millie's father denied her presence in the artistic world? What if he used it to further manipulate their lives? She anchored deeper into that growing determination, choosing to believe that standing up for their truth would fortify their bond. On the night before the meeting, Jenna chose to retain her calmness. She lit candles, filled the studio air with the scent of lavender, and surrounded herself with the art that inspired both her and Millie. In those serene moments, Jenna painted, channeling the chaos in her heart onto the canvas, solidifying her resolve. Each stroke brought renewed clarity. She was no longer just defending against a looming threat, she was fortifying an empire built on creativity and courage. As dawn broke the following day, Jenna felt the weight of possibility settle on her shoulders. She understood that whether she emerged as a victor or not, this moment was critical not just for her but for Millie's future. But as she gathered her belongings and prepared to leave, a final realization struck her. What if Millie's father came wielding unexpected leverage against them? His history and power could shift the dynamics dramatically. The implications loomed heavy, adding layers of uncertainty to the path ahead. As Jenna stepped out, her stomach knotted with anticipation. She knew that she was inching closer to a moment that could irrevocably redefine their fates, and with each step forward, she felt the tug of the unknown tighten. What unexpected challenges or revelations awaited her in the confrontation that lay ahead? The drive to the coffee shop felt endless, as though each mile extracted a deeper breath of trepidation. Jenna wiped her sweaty palms on her jeans, a symptom of her mounting anxiety. Faced with the prospect of Millie's father, the sheer weight of his presence loomed like a specter between them. She had imagined this moment in countless iterations, yet the reality twisted into an unsettling knot in her stomach. Arriving at the cafe, Jenna gracefully stepped onto the pavement, forcing herself to stand upright. She scanned the outdoor seating, taking in individuals lost in conversation, none of whom bore the marks of her battle. The usual hum of casual chatter seemed to drown out her inner monologue, the echoes of doubt and fear vying for dominance. The familiar chime of the door swung shut behind her, punctuating the air with urgency. As she claimed a table with a view of the entrance, she took several measured breaths. The details around her blurred. This wasn't just coffee, it was the tangible manifestation of her determination. Jenna had resolved to frame this encounter on her terms. She rehearsed her points, knitting together her defenses while also stoking the fires of their artistic ambitions. Today was about claiming strength, not just for herself, but for Millie, who deserved to thrive in the light, unchained from the shadows of her father's control. And then she saw him. Tall and imposing, his presence monopolized the air, thickening it with intimidation. Jenna's mouth dry, she steeled her resolve, drawing from the well of courage she had cultivated. She resisted the impulse to shrink away. Instead, she straightened her posture and met his gaze with fierce defiance. Millie's art deserves to be seen, she stated as he approached, her voice steadier than she felt. Jenna, he replied, a slick smile forming. Are we really doing this? His arrogance hung heavy in the air, provoking a flurry of emotions within her: rage, resent, and an unexpected undercurrent of determination. This was not a negotiation, it was a declaration. She's talented. You know that. You should want her to flourish. I know her talent. His tone dripped with condescension, the insinuation clear. But talent alone doesn't pay the bills, does it? Or protect her from mistakes. The jab found its mark, generating a familiar knot in her gut, but it was navigable this time. Jenna leaned closer, her hands resting firmly on the table, setting the ground for what was to come. Mistakes are a part of growth. If you truly want what's best for Millie, then you'll let her take this step. You can't keep her from the world, and you shouldn't. The tension played out like a tug of war, with both sides pulling and releasing, testing resolve. He relaxed slightly in response, and a glimmer of doubt sparkled in his eyes, but she was not done yet. She unveiled the notes where she had listed Millie's achievements: local art shows, honorable mentions at competitions, each accolade crafted to showcase not just her growth as an artist but as an individual. What does it mean to you? He asked, glancing at the parchment she had pressed on the table. What does any of this really mean? It means freedom, Jenna replied, firmness rising in her voice. It means the right to explore her passions without fear. It means she gets her chance, whether you approve or not. In that moment, something shifted between them. While his stance remained defiant, a flicker of respect darted across his features. She could sense the glimmer of contemplation, the notion that perhaps power doesn't solely reside in restricting others but also in nurturing their potential, but the internal conflict intensified. A realization thudded in her chest: a mother's battle was never just against an adversary but often against the echoes of her own insecurities. Would she have the strength to push for Millie's rights even if it placed her directly in the path of backlash? He narrowed his eyes, voice low. So be it. Let us see how far you're willing to go. As the conversation waned, the responsibility of their challenge solidified around Jenna, transforming fear into a burgeoning resolve. Stepping back onto the pavement, she realized the encounter was only the beginning. The fight for Millie's creative future had just ignited. Jenna felt an unsettling energy pulse through her, teasing both fear and hope, a reminder that this path would only intensify. And now, as she gathered her belongings, she knew their battle would evoke far more than she had anticipated. What hidden retaliations would Millie's father craft against their aspirations? The stage was set for an unforeseen escalation, and Jenna was just bracing for the unfolding twists in this freshly ignited conflict. The days that followed the meeting weighed heavily on Jenna, each dawn seeming to stretch the anticipation into an unyielding coil of anxiety. Every time the doorbell rang or the phone buzzed, her heart raced, a constant reminder of the impending fallout from her defiance. She felt exposed, straddling the line between empowerment and vulnerability, yet desperation transformed into something indefinable. The air in her small apartment grew thick with the urgency of her mission. Jenna began to prepare meticulously for the next phase of her challenge. Each late evening, she sat with her laptop open, poring over Millie's portfolio, examining every brushstroke and message conveyed through her daughter's art. It wasn't enough to simply argue that Millie deserved the chance. She needed to structure a compelling case that would resonate not just with Millie's father but with anyone who held control over her future. She would showcase the depth of Millie's work as both artist and individual. She started compiling a presentation, a visual feast that spoke to the heart of Millie's creativity. The process was both cathartic and revealing. Jenna uncovered layers within herself, the monotony of daily routines peeled away to expose a passionate advocate in waiting. Hadn't she always reprimanded herself for not pursuing her own artistic inclinations? Now, she was not just advocating for Millie but, vicariously, for her own forgotten ambitions. Late into the night stretched on, Jenna found herself lost in thoughts about how to leverage this momentum. What would happen if she stepped into her own spotlight? What if she held a gallery show of Millie's work, framing it as a defiant stand against her father's control? The idea thrilled her, though laced with trepidation. As she filled her notebook with ideas, her hands shook at the audacity of it all. A week later, with a small sense of purpose nudging aside her doubts, Jenna decided to approach local galleries. Their reservations and lack of compassion for unestablished artists often left her feeling subordinate, but she muscled through those feelings. She championed Millie's artistry in every conversation, daring to claim that her daughter's work belonged on the same walls where renowned artists hung. To her surprise, the responses varied. Some gallerists dismissed her altogether, others showed mere fleeting interest, yet one owner paused thoughtfully at her presentation and allowed Jenna's enthusiasm to work its charm. "This is remarkable, the emotion in the pieces. She really captures something here," he said, which set off her heart like a firecracker. Fueled by this interaction, she began reaching out for additional support from fellow single parents she met at community meetings, to art enthusiast forums online. Slowly but steadily, these connections blossomed into a network. They offered not just encouragement but shared resources. In her newfound roles, Jenna realized something vital. She had a voice that carried weight, not only for Millie but for herself. The depths of her own isolation began to dissolve when she embraced the principles of collaboration. Yet Millie's father remained a looming shadow, aware of the shifts in their dynamic but blurred by attempts to affirm his control. Jenna could sense he would strike back. His tactic would likely involve undermining her newfound strength and Millie's aspirations. As Jenna envisioned the gaping consequences of her defiance, the relentless urge to protect her daughter surged once more. Measuring her resolve, Jenna sat down again that night. She had made strides, but it was not simply about creating a showcase for Millie. It was about a recalibration of their identities and futures, their paths intersecting in defiance against a suppressive figure. While excitement coiled around one possibility after another, a patter of anxiety formed a pit in her stomach. What if she failed? The stakes were far higher than she had anticipated. A sudden knock on the door jolted her into reality. Heart pounding, she opened it, bracing for confrontation or, worse, disdain. But standing before her was Millie, her innocent determination a stark contrast to the turmoil in Jenna's heart. "Mom, can we talk about my art?" In that moment, Jenna faced not just a daughter brainstorming ideas but the embodiment of all she was fighting for. The tide of fear surged up again within her, testing the very core of her newly discovered self. This was a fight she could not back down from. But then, an unsettling thought crossed her mind. What if Millie had doubts too? What if her own apprehensions could snuff out the flames of hope they were trying to ignite? The uncertainty loomed as she invited Millie inside, and as the door clicked shut behind them, Jenna knew the coming conversation would not only define their future but also test her burgeoning strength in ways she never could have imagined. As Jenna and Millie settled into their small living room, she noticed the timid way her daughter gripped her sketchbook, knuckles white against its worn cover. Jenna's heart squeezed with an unexpected mix of pride and concern. "Mom, I've been thinking about my art," Millie began, her voice barely above a whisper. The vulnerable tone sparked a deeper urgency in Jenna. This was about more than just securing a future for Millie. This moment held the weight of their entire journey, confronting fears both had kept pent up. "I want to make it personal, you know?" Millie continued, her spirit igniting with each word. "I want to show them why it matters to me, and not just the pictures. I want them to feel what I feel." Jenna felt a swell of emotion rising in her chest. Millie was tapping into something profound, reminding her of the very essence she sought to harness for her daughter's presentation. Yes. That connection is crucial. But we need to guide them through that journey. What do you want them to learn about you? About us? Millie's eyes lit up, reflecting a newfound determination. "Everything I create is about how I see the world without filters, without everyone else's expectations. Can you help me build that story?" And there it was, the invitation to dive deeper. Jenna realized that the strength of their bond could translate into a powerful narrative, one that would not only champion Millie's artistic voice but also serve as a mirror to her own awakening. "I can help you, but first, we need to gather our thoughts. Let us create a list of everything you want to say through your art. Then we can weave it together with images that support that story," Jenna suggested, feeling invigorated by Millie's excitement. They spent hours brainstorming, the atmosphere steadily shifting from heavy uncertainty to a shared sense of purpose. As Millie fleshed out her ideas, drawing connections between each piece and personal experiences, Jenna wrestled with her own insecurities. Was she fully prepared to support this burgeoning artist without overshadowing her? Each launch of Millie's innate creativity inspired Jenna to reconsider her own limitations. Her passion for art flooded back as she recalled the joy of creating, sparking a desire to reclaim that part of herself, too. The concept of a gallery show loomed larger in her mind. It was no longer an abstract idea, it was a mission to validate Millie, but it would also be a reawakening for Jenna. The further they delved into Millie's message, the clearer her own aspirations shimmering beneath the surface became. "What if we held a workshop together? You could teach kids your techniques while I guide the discussion around your inspiration," Jenna proposed. A reckless idea, perhaps, but it felt transformative. Millie's face lit up. That would be awesome. And it would show that creativity is for everyone, not just those who fit into a box. The enthusiasm in her words drove Jenna to arrange her thoughts. The pressure they felt to fall in line could be the very cornerstone of their mission. Just then, Jenna's phone buzzed on the table, breaking the moment. A notification flashed across the screen from the gallery owner who had shown interest in Millie's work. He wanted to arrange a meeting in a few days to discuss a potential showcase. The revelation hit Jenna like a bolt of lightning. The time had come to galvanize all they had worked for, yet it also provoked an ignited tension. The impending confrontation with the gallery and her husband's likely rebuttals filled the air with unspoken worries. "Millie," Jenna said, her voice steady yet firm, "this isn't just about your art anymore. This is about making a stand. We will show them what your vision looks like. But I can feel the storm coming. Millie shifted, her fingers curling around her sketchbook, rallying a wave of resolve in her young spirit. Both knew the path was fraught with danger, doubt, conflict, and looming opposition, but embedded within it emerged an opportunity for transformation. In a few days, we will step into that meeting not just as mother and daughter, but as a force to be reckoned with. Together, Jenna stated, her mind racing with strategies. The stakes felt monumental. But deep down, a question nagged at her: was she really ready to confront everything that Millie's father represented? What if his opposition proved more daunting than anything they had faced yet? As these thoughts lingered unanswered, Jenna locked eyes with Millie, who readily met her gaze, a mirror to Jenna's own fears and hidden ambitions. In that moment, she understood the forthcoming challenges would not merely lay bare their artistic ambitions but strip down the many layers of who they were, forcing them to confront the very essence of their identities. When the door swung open, shattering the silence with a sudden clarity just moments later, Jenna steeled herself for whatever turmoil awaited, because the confrontation that lay ahead promised to redefine everything they had fought to reclaim. In the days leading up to the gallery meeting, Jenna became a force of unwavering determination. She poured her energy into meticulous preparations, refining Millie's artwork, crafting a narrative that highlighted not only her daughter's artistic journey but their shared struggles against societal expectations. Every brushstroke and color choice began to symbolize not just creativity but resilience, an embodiment of the battles they bravely faced together. When the day finally arrived, Jenna stood in front of the mirror, taking a moment to absorb her reflection. The thrift store dress felt less like an emblem of poverty and more like a testament to her authenticity, a reminder of her journey. Millie came rushing in, her enthusiasm infectious as she clutched her sketchbook tightly, her vibrant spirit sparking a flicker of confidence in Jenna's heart. "We're ready, Mom," Millie exclaimed, her eyes glowing with excitement. "Let us show them who we are." They arrived at the gallery, an oasis of creativity amidst the clamor of privilege. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, and Jenna took a deep breath as she stepped through the doors. The gallery owner welcomed them warmly, leading them to a sunlit corner adorned with beautiful art pieces. "This is where we will showcase Millie's work," he said, gesturing enthusiastically toward the blank walls. Jenna felt her heart swell with pride but also a creeping anxiety, a concern that Millie's father might still loom in the shadows, ready to undermine her progress. Still, she pushed those thoughts aside. Today was about embracing the moment. Jenna and Millie presented their narrative diligently, weaving a fabric of authenticity that chronicled their journey, a saga of hardship, hope, and undeniable talent. What's essential is that Millie's art speaks to the heart, showing the raw truths of our lives, Jenna articulated passionately. It transcends conventional definitions of success or beauty. It's about connection. The gallery owner nodded, captivated by their shared energy and conviction. As they concluded their presentation, tentative applause edged into exuberance, echoing their emotions. Millie's art was striking in its honesty, opening windows into her world. The owner was visibly moved. "This resonates with something deeper," he said. "I can see the potential for a strong exhibition. Let's make this happen." In that moment, all the tension lifted, replaced with a wave of affirmation. Jenna and Millie exchanged a look, a mixture of disbelief and triumph. They were on the brink of something monumental, and the world was finally aligning with their narrative, but amidst their excitement, the specter of Millie's father materialized, more detrimental than Jenna could have imagined. Just days before the exhibition, he approached Jenna unexpectedly, blending charm with intimidation. "You think your little art show is going to change anything?" he scoffed. His demeanor was deliberately condescending, designed to provoke. "She belongs to a different league, Jenna. You're not fit to champion her talent." The weight of his words pressed heavily against her resolve, yet Jenna felt a tremendous shift within. She was no longer that unsure mother who hesitated behind the curtain. "Her talent wasn't meant for your box," she shot back, unyielding. "Millie thrives outside of expectations. Your world doesn't define her success. We will not cower." Millie's impending exhibition became more than a presentation of art. It morphed into an act of reclamation, a canvas for resilience woven by their unbreakable bond. On the night of the show, Jenna adjusted her thrift store dress one last time, a symbol of all she had fought to accomplish. She felt beautiful, powerful. As guests filtered into the gallery, Jenna's heart raced in anticipation. When she finally saw Millie standing by her art, the vibrant piece reflecting not only her talent but their joint journey, it evoked an overwhelming sense of pride. They were about to redefine their narrative in front of a community willing to listen, when the first attendees approached. Millie's display, Jenna smiled, her chest swelling with joy. She watched as they admired Millie's talent, heard their thoughtful discussions about the stories captured on the canvas, genuine connections sparking in a world initially cloaked in skepticism. Applause rang out, each clap presenting validation to their persistence. Through it all, Jenna's perspective shifted, every ounce of fear erased by a thriving confidence. Millie beamed, sharing her art with others, weaving tales that resonated deeply. Here, in the light of recognition, Jenna knew she had transformed. She was no longer merely a single mom fighting against her circumstances. She was an empowered advocate for her daughter, championing the authenticity of their experiences. In the end, as accolades and connections multiplied, Jenna realized she wasn't just celebrating Millie's art. She was embracing her identity, one forged from strength, creativity, and a profound purpose. They were artists in their own right, weaving narratives that spoke of resilience and love, capable of shifting paradigms. Jenna conquered her fears and doubts, achieving a personal metamorphosis that illuminated her path ahead, one of visible success and validation rooted in fierce authenticity. With Millie at her side, they had built a legacy not born from privilege but from their heart, ready to embrace the future with solid confidence and unwavering resolve. As they celebrated their accomplishments, Jenna understood the significance of this victory. It had transcended beyond art. Today, she had established her position in a world that once felt alien, not just as a protector but as a formidable storyteller and creator, but their journey had just begun. The challenges would always be contingent, and they would encounter new hurdles that sought to derail their progress. Together, Jenna and Millie would continue to inspire others, but they would never forget the roots of their transformation. This is where their true journey of personal achievement carved the way forward, daring to be authentic in a world that often attempted to silence their truth. If you enjoyed this conclusion, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach even more hearts. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible transformation. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how resilience and authenticity can lead to true success.